All right, friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel, A Radical Relationship, where we are talking all things faith and all things lifestyle. We're back and we're going to start to round out our Wisdom for Women in the Bible series. We have just 2 chapters left, and I'm excited, super excited to dive into the last 2 women because per usual, I feel like they save the best for last. So I'm excited. Let's dive right in. All right, so in this chapter of the book, we are going to be talking about Martha. Martha is the sister of Mary. Her story can be found in a couple places in the Bible, or the passages that reference her. It's not really a story about her, but she can be found in, that's not the right one. John 11, verses 21 through 22, and Luke 10, 40, John 12, 1 through 7. And I'll, of course, include those in the description box below as well. But the theme here for Martha is when Jesus is in the house, give him your full attention. Now, immediately, that title really resonated with me because I can tend to be busy. I can tend to be go, go, go. And as I look at Martha and sort of the things that she kind of got caught up in as opposed to what Jesus would have preferred her be caught up in, I was like, yeah, I can totally see myself being that too. So I started out with saying that, like, he paints a much different picture of Martha than what we would expect based on the interactions that are recorded about her. He says, because of the way Martha interacted with Jesus, I would see her as a type A personality, a doer who's not afraid to tell others what to think and do. She never appeared to hold back when interacting with Jesus. But here in the story, he describes her as kind of taking it easy, sit back, relax, take your shoes off, enjoy the grass, that kind of thing. So I thought that it would be good to paint some context around, what were those interactions that he said would make us think that she's more of a doer. So we're going to take a look at a couple passages of scripture. John 11, verses 21 through 22. So Mary and Martha were both sisters of a man named Lazarus, whom Jesus ended up raising from the dead. Is one of Jesus's miracles recorded in the New Testament. And so I said verses 21 through 22, but I don't think that's right. No, it's no, that's right. All right. So it says, Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. So Martha's a little bold, right? Like, if you had been here, this wouldn't happen. And even now I know you can do it, And so that's one of the instances where he's like, what we know about Martha the picture painted would not be that she's any type of take it easy type person. She's pretty bold and outspoken. And then Luke 10:40, which is a really popular passage, and really is one that typically paints the picture of Martha, is I'll start in verse 38. Now, as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. And so here she go again, like, hello, do you see that she's leaving me here to serve by myself? Like, will you tell her to help me? So there she go, being bold again. And it says, but the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but only one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. So Jesus basically told her, sis, you concerned about the wrong things, though. Put her in her place real quick. And one of the first sections of the book of the chapter is entitled Slow Down. And so he talks about how, okay, I didn't think that she was going to be this easygoing person based on what I know about her. And one of the things that she says is, when I saw the way that my sister poured oil on Jesus and really served him, and took that time to be with him, that was one of the things basically that really convicted her about what her interactions with Jesus need to look like. And that passage that's referring to her sister Mary pouring the oil is found in John 12:1-7, and it's when her sister Mary was actually anointing Jesus for burial. So Mary, her sister, was just much more in tune with a level of intimacy with Jesus. And as I think about the ways that I can be like Martha, it also reminds me of the levels of intimacy that I'm often robbed of because I'm so concerned with the wrong things. I'm trying to do and make sure everything is right and that kind of thing. But Jesus is like, that's not even what I want from you. And it makes me think about the same thing in my relationships. Like, how often can I become consumed with that and not just focus on the intimacy emotionally of just like being with the person. So I love that Jesus is the type of guy who's like, no, I don't want what you do. I want you. And isn't that every girl's dream, right? To be wanted just for who we are, not for what we can bring to the table. And so she says, I thought duty was more important than devotion. And that's the story of my life for a lot of reasons that I'm starting to get more in touch with now. And so I laughed because there's a portion in the book where they outline what it looks like when you're duty focused and what it looks like when you're devotion focused. And it was so funny to me because in the book, the duty is like, welcomes Jesus, gets distracted, misreads Jesus, tries to impress him through work. And devotion is just welcomes Jesus, focuses on Jesus, sits at his feet, sits at his feet, sits at his feet, sits at his feet. And so I just thought that was pretty funny because I was like, okay, clearly the author is trying to get something across to us. So how good are we about just sitting at Jesus's feet? She talks about sometimes we don't want to sit at the feet of Jesus because it can make us uncomfortable. What is he going to show us? What is he going to call out? What's going to come to the forefront that I need to deal with? And so challenging us to like push into the uncomfortable, because the goal of Jesus is to always heal, is always to bring us closer to him. So even those uncomfortable moments are still just opportunities that he's creating to draw us in more. Is never just to make us feel bad, and never just because he wants us to be uncomfortable, but it's because he's trying to draw us into something that's going to ultimately be for our benefit. And I love that. One of the points that I really loved that the author pointed out is that he said Martha's mistakes were recorded in history for all to read, but not what she learned from it. And so I put, she may come off as pushy and hard, but needed to learn how to interact with Jesus in the right way. And I can really relate to that. I've learned about myself, and I've seen, like, this is the typical story of the strong personality, right? Like, we come off as We can come off as well put together when we're type A. We can come off as pushy when we're as overt as Martha was. But the real issue is that we haven't learned what's truly important, and that is devotion, that is intimacy, that is placing all the things that you can do aside and really just interacting with Jesus. And as I mentioned, I've seen how that rolls over into my relationships as well. Seen that in my romantic relationships, that it's just like checking the boxes and boom, 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 but not really just enjoying the person. So a huge lesson learned for me. I also remembered that as she talks about the beauty of sitting at the feet of Jesus and just really taking in that time with him when he's in the room, because you don't get that often. It reminds me of all the times that I'm like, yeah, the valley seasons that I've had mean so much more to me and are so much precious to me, because I experienced Jesus in a way that I never have before, and that only a valley season can bring. So I know exactly what Martha is getting at when it's like, yo, when he's in the room, pay attention. Like when he's asking for your attention, give it to him, because those seasons, man, I chuckle because I'm like, nobody feels like they want to have to go through anything to feel that close to Jesus. But there's just something about those seasons that you just, they don't come often. And when they do, they're so, so, so sweet. And so I love that. She mentioned how activity does not equal connection, which was, I said, such a good nugget for relationships, period. Like activity, because you're doing something, whether you're having sex, going out to eat, spending time together, it doesn't equal connection. So what are the ways that we can actually connect with Jesus, that we can actually connect in our relationships with one another, and not just do things, but connect? How do we breed a healthy type of emotional intimacy in that way? All right, so questions for reflection. I really like number 4. Do you find it easy or difficult to stop what you're doing and try to get on God's agenda? So what that made me reflect on is the fact that typically I like to do my quiet times with God in the morning, wake up, set the tone for my day. But quite a few times in the past few weeks or past month, God has really been tugging at my heart to spend time at night. I could be triggered by something that happened during the day that I really need to like journal about or get out or sit with God in that moment. And I feel the tug, but I'm like, nah, man, I'm trying to like watch TV, binge out for the night. Like that's how I want to end my night. So that pull, in that way, like when I feel like he's disrupting my plan, I'm like, okay, that's when I find it difficult to, what does it say? Stop what I'm doing and try to get on God's agenda. And then number 6 says, can you describe a time when you desired clarity about something important to you or received it only when you spent time with God? And I just wrote down divorce. When I was going through that process and just felt like so many things were cloudy and I didn't know what to do and I didn't know which direction to go. It was when I cut out all the noise. I stopped. I took a trip. I went out to be in nature and just was intentional, super intentional about trying to hear from God specifically about this. And that's when I felt like I got answers to the questions that I've been asking. Before we end, one final point that I wanted to make was that, you know, we don't always identify Martha's behavior and those of us who are women like Martha as needing to change, because is looked at as like, oh, they're good servants and oh, they're so giving and da 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 da. But between being type A and codependency and being duty focused, but there can be so many things about that type of behavior, even though it looks really spiritual and like you're doing something really good, that can still be contrary to the heart of Jesus and what he really wants for us, depending on what that motive is and what's going on in our heart. So really tricky there. So as always, you know, the goal is to take a look at the lives of these women and evaluate in what ways we need to change, in what ways we can be more like them from the better, and learn from their stories and learn from their mistakes. And so the question is, do we take the time to sit at Jesus's feet? And even more importantly, when we feel like we don't want to, but he's tugging at us, or when he's inconveniencing us, will we still take the time to truly just give ourselves over to devotion and not duty, not trying to fix it up and not trying to serve and not trying to get it all together, but to simply just enjoy the presence of Jesus. So that's it, y'all. That is all for this video. Per usual, hopefully you all enjoyed it. Take away some nuggets. And until next time, we are out. Bye, y'all.